Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find the way.
Hey, it's Christoph Wrights of the Poet Life Podcast. I'm excited right now because I have some friends of mine on the podcast as guests today. The names are Crossley and Ann. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Crossley, I love that name, man.
Thank you.
Is there a background or a meaning behind your name, or
it's a family name? Family name.
Really?
Yeah. So it was my grandma's maiden name.
Really nice. That really intrigued me when I first met you. You know.
Thank you. I've never met somebody else with my name, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I got made fun of it, I think, one time as a kid. So it wasn't
one time.
Just one time. It's not traumatic.
Wow. Any different name, when you're young, you get it.
Yeah.
I got it all the time, and I'm Christoph. But if they've never heard it before, it's a joke.
Yeah. I'm sure they're like, "Oh, you mean Christopher?" Chris?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? Till this day, I am Christopher to anybody that I just meet. They'll add the ER for me.
Like, thank you, but no.
Or tell me that I misspelled my own name.
Right. Like you don't know.
You forgot the ER. No, I didn't. But you know what solidified it for me was it Frozen?
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
That was probably very helpful.
Yes. I was so excited when I watched that movie.
Yeah, normalize the name.
Exactly. No, but excited to have you all on because, well, I'm sure the audience who follows us and subscribes, they know of the project because we had Nina on and we had Scott. Nina is the feature poet and Scott is the composer of the atmospheric music in the background that you all are singing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited to have the third part of the cast, and I'll be having Gilbert and Jacob on as well. So I'm really excited about that. So I wanted to bring you all on because you all have the title of producer. And I know there are other, but for the most part, you all had the role of producer. All right. So have you ever been a producer as it relates to a film or a project like this before?
No. It's a new job for us.
It's brand new territory.
Yeah.
Could not tell.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you all had the look, the swag of it all. Did you have to figure it out? Did you have to study what producers do? Because it looked like that you all have been doing it for a while.
We have those skills. We just had to translate them because as Bridge, we're artistic directors, and with our group, we are producing normally live performances. So artistic director, we are focused on a lot of the craft and building and creating an aesthetic, but a lot of it is administrative and just kind of pulling everything together. And so in a way, we have been producers for a while. We had to definitely translate those skills for a video production.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
is it like a project manager?
Kind of, yeah. And I think we've all, as singers and conductors, done enough recording sessions and gigs to know what helps a project to go smoothly, and when certain things are left out, what can become a catastrophe later on down the road. Right. So we pretty much just put ourselves in the shoes of Nina as the performer, and thought, okay, what information do we need to have exactly for the day of, and then afterward, we were very careful about creating a schedule and setting deadlines for ourselves. But yeah, it was a big learning curve to kind of do the entire.
Yeah, and for we were producers for this, and we're co-artistic directors for Bridge, but really just in life we are artists, and
Sure.
we are most of the time independent artists managing ourselves and the gig life, and so we're producing ourselves, and we're constantly producing content and working logistics. So yeah, and it all came together. We did get somewhat of a running start with the pandemic because when everything shut down last March, a year ago, March 13th.
Yeah.
March 13 really jumps out to me as one of those days.
This was the day that like all of my gigs were canceled, like every single one. I got email after email after email. And I was like looking at my Facebook memories this morning.
It was
and
a depressing
like,
day.
Wow. Yeah.
But so when that happened, of course, there was shock and we were paralyzed for a while. But shortly after, we did what we could, producing videos at home to keep the art going, and so we had a couple months of skill building and learning how to produce videos on a much smaller scale. But
sure.
Yeah, that little runway helped us definitely.
For sure.
Yeah. So the COVID season was just a good time to recalibrate.
Yeah.
And study and prepare yourself for even more greatness that produced this great project.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we would have been able to do this
exactly
without having been like in quarantine and having the time at home to, so it was kind of a necessary evil, I suppose, in getting this project done. Yeah.
Sure, because we were meeting weekly, starting in May, right?
Yeah, I think May or June was our first meeting.
Yeah. So I can't even imagine the time constraints of trying to meet on a regular basis to get this project done if we all weren't quarantined.
Right. Yeah, well, as the world kind of started to open up, we started to experience that. Like, I remember it being like October or November, and we were meeting on Zoom, and I was like, this is a miracle that we've been able to meet weekly with all of our schedules. But yeah, it was definitely a COVID experience.
Yes. So for those who are listening, watching, reading, and you don't know exactly what we're talking about, well, there's a project that we just created in the midst of the COVID season, and it's called America, You're Beautiful. And go check it out right now. It's aybfilm.com. I have to say it slow just so I make sure I don't say YAB, America, You're Beautiful. So aybfilm.com. Go check that out. It's only 6 minutes and 55 seconds, but it's powerful. It's a short film that we produce to speak to all of what that has been going on for years as it relates to race relations and police brutality, things of that nature, and we wanted to make sure. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So let me ask you, Alan and Crossley, how did you all come up with this idea, and just what inspired it? What inspired you to call me the Poet Life and say, let's work together?
Well, it came shortly after the murder of George Floyd, and the whole world was responding to that. And we kind of sat back for a little bit and wanted to let what was happening wash over us and not immediately respond, but sort of instead create a space for listening for a little while. That was our sort of immediate response. We wanted to listen, and we wanted to contribute, and we had thoughts about how to do that, but we gave it some time, and then we all talked and decided, that a lot of different ensembles are doing a lot of beautiful things, like hiring Black composers or Black soloists on their concert series to sort of amplify their voices that way. But we decided we wanted to actually give an entire platform to a person of color. And so that's where I think Alan thought to contact you, because we enjoyed working with you so much. I'll let you talk about that. But
actually, I think that was your idea.
Is it really?
My memory is kind of fuzzy. The way all of this developed was just, I don't think at any time there was a clear path. We just took it, moment by moment, step by step. And so the details are fuzzy, but I remember faintly that initial conversation. We knew that we wanted to do something. And I think I was actually one of the four of us, me, Crossley, Gilbert, and Jacob. I was probably the one of the voices pushing to do something. I just felt like I wanted us to do something. Like the moment was too important, and I wanted to help in some way. And then I remember, Crossley being like, well, let's just pause and take things in. And then, we thought back to, it came up in that meeting. We thought back to, our very last live performance was a partnership with the Poet Life in January 2020. And we had prepared for other things, but that performance was incredible. The way it all came together, and it was our first time partnering with you. And we were just so moved by the way music and poetry came together for that performance. And we someone came up with the idea. I think it was Crossley, but it could have been anybody. We thought, the Poet Life, they might be the ones to help us out here. Like we didn't really know what we wanted to do, but we knew that we had a really effective and inspiring partnership, and thought that you might be able to help. And so I shot you an email, and thankfully you were really excited about it, which you didn't have to be. A lot of people in that moment, it was so heated, and some people just needed space to not comment or just to let others take the reign. But you definitely took it head on and helped to guide us through that early conceptual development.
Sure. Yeah. No. When I received the email, I said, "Oh, this is awesome." First of all, I really loved, just like you all, working with you all in the last project. That was just magic. That was magic. When Church the Poet, he's from North Carolina. When I think, yes, I know. That's what I said, and I didn't know until he got there. I thought he was DC area.
Yeah.
But he drove down from North Carolina 5 hours. And because I think he DM'd me, I think I put it out there or something like that, calling all poets or something like that.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, I'll be there." I was like, "Cool. That means you're in the area." In my mind.
Yeah.
But he got there. Yeah. No, I just got off the road. I said, "Off the road? What do you mean?" "Yeah, they're coming from North Carolina." I was like,
wow.
That's dedication. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Wow.
But no, he already had a poem on homelessness. That was the topic and theme of that event. And so I say that to say it's my responsibility to scour through all of the poets, but also all of their already pre-written poems to find what would seamlessly and perfectly match with the theme and tone of the project or event. And so my responsibility was to make sure I found one that was professional, that takes their craft serious, but could present and write a piece that wasn't all anger. And it's understandable, but if we want people to listen, if we want the conversation to be started, it can't be all anger.
Yeah.
Right. So even though I understand, I still had to make the conscious decision to choose the right poet that could speak through their anger, but be inviting as well.
Yeah.
And Nina Bruton came to my mind, and I'm so glad.
We are so glad.
Yeah. She was perfect.
Yeah. But also the other check off the boxes is flexibility. Who knew it would last 9 months?
Yeah. I think when our very first meeting, we were talking about, just making videos on our iPhone and 2-3 minutes. We'll get it out in, I think we said October.
Right.
Well, and I think you were the one, Christoph, that kind of encouraged us to think bigger. We were going to do this like small little, here's a great video that says something nice. Yeah. And you were like, well, why don't we like do it? Like, if we're going to do it, let's do the thing. And we kept sort of raising the bar after that. And I think you really inspired that to happen. And are the reason we have what we have now.
Yeah. And that's really what I'm trying to get poets to come to, start there, start putting the small videos out, but keep enhancing. Right. And don't put limits on your work. Yeah. Only when you're commissioned and they say you have 2 minutes, that's when you have to use the word that I learned recently, brevity, learn how to constrain something bigger into something smaller, and still make it have a strong impact. But let's not put a time limit on this, let it be what it's going to be, let it stop when the message is complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was definitely the special part of this project, that it became what it was meant to be, because, we had that flexibility. And we all wanted it to get to that level, right? We couldn't envision what the end product would be, but every step along the way, we knew we gave it the space to let it become what it needed to be. So that was that's really special. You can't get that with every project you work on, especially when you're on deadlines and juggling all kinds of projects. And this was special.
Yeah, definitely. The other part of it, Nina being the right person, she wasn't calling me, emailing me, texting me saying, man, this is taking too long, and so that she was not a burden, and that's another part of choosing the right person, and I get it. Some artists are like, look, I'm not paid to be here 9 months, and You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was just so happy the fact that she believed in the project, one.
Yeah.
Right. And she let it flow. She let it flow. And she's the better for it. The project is the better for it. And so I really appreciate her. So as producers, what did you all learn in this process?
So many things.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I think I think I could speak on behalf of Olive Bridge, and Crossley will definitely chime in. But I think we learned that the passion and the kind of heart that we poured into this project is that's what we want all of our projects to be built on. And we've always been tried to engage with issues of our time. It's part of our mission to use music and to use our voices to examine what's happening around us. But that started again with that January 2020 concert on the event on the topic of homelessness. And then this just brought it to a new level. And because we were also passionate about the message,
right?
It's that contaminated every part of building the project, from editing to the singing to the film shoot to like planning the days around the film shoot. And that's really how I think the greatest, most impactful art is built, is when it accesses the things you really truly want to express and comment on.
Yeah. I mean, I think art for the sake of art is fine. Concerts given because certain pieces are pretty, there's nothing wrong with that. But this, I agree with Alan, this sort of solidified Bridge's mission to create art for a bigger purpose. And we had already been that had already been our mission, as you know, from Little Match Girl. But after this, like, I don't know if we can really go back ever to just like doing a concert because the music's pretty. Like, I think there will always have to be another reason or a partnership or whatever behind what we're doing, because it's just like knowing that this is possible, you know.
Yes. Yeah. There's so much that this can and will turn into. You know, I was talking to Nina and I was telling her, be prepared. Be prepared with a curriculum, right? Because one, it's in demand. Well, it's needed. It needs to be in demand, right? The start of the conversation in small rooms, big rooms. But if there is no one ready to provide the curriculum to facilitate the conversation, it won't happen. So be prepared. So when the phone calls and the emails and the DMs come and say, hey, can you all come and do a workshop after we watch the 6-minute and 55-second film that you all produced, right? And so I just believe in being prepared for the flood, right? So the flood of attention and calls, right? So be proactive and not reactive, even if no one ever calls.
Be ready.
But see, even if they don't call, we can create it ourselves and say, hey, we have a workshop that we want you all to attend. Right. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's a good idea. But that's how my mind works, you know, not not letting things die at the end of the production of the project.
Mhm.
You know, and that's why I said the project needs a website. It needs a home.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so it can house opportunities, and those opportunities can build to other things. And so I'm really excited that you all were open and willing to just listen to ideas, but not only ideas, but I want to go back to Nina, the poet. And what were your hesitations and maybe fears about what she possibly would say? You know, because
I can answer this one.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Of the four of us, I am definitely the most like, let's not alienate anyone.
sure,
Um, and and so I think we all had a fear, but especially I had a fear of like certain people clicking on the video, watching 30 seconds, being like, I know what this is.
right,
Boom. This is just, you know, and the point of doing this is for those people to watch the whole video. You know what I mean? For them to hear it. Um, and that's why Nina was so brilliant, because she acknowledged the truth of everything. You know,
Mhm.
she acknowledged the beauty that we have here in this country and the potential for beauty that we have here in this country. But she didn't ignore it. She didn't, you know, there were no rose colored glasses either. She didn't
Mhm.
ignore the facts. But even her like darker sections of the poem, they never, they're never just angry or bitter. They're always, this is what's wrong. This
Mhm.
is what needs changing. You know,
Mhm.
there's always motivation um and forward motion. And I just I loved it. So
Mhm.
it was perfect. But
Yes.
yeah, I definitely was nervous going into it, just because I wanted this to be a message everyone would listen to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Nita did a great job of even like from the words, but also just the setup and her design of the poem. Because she started off with the common ground, which was hard to find,
Sure.
especially when
Right.
we started. She wrote that opening back in, I don't know, July, and she could have
Yeah.
just charged in, but you know, for real conversations to happen, there needs to be respect and a common ground. And she started off with the fact that she loves the country and she believes in it. And you know, the people that there are many people that believe that uh, people like us just aren't happy with the country and want things to change, right?
Right.
Because we don't love the country, but it's not that. It's because
Because you do.
we believe in it, right?
Mhm.
Right. We believe in the potential, and the potential is worth fighting for.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When you hear, if you don't like it here, then just leave.
Mm,
That's not what it's about.
Right.
yeah.
That's not what it's about. We love it here. That's why we bring up the things that need to be fixed.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
What don't you understand?
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, something can be amazing, but there's always things that everything has flaws. But you don't just say, "Hey, I got flaws." No, let's see how we can enhance and
Mhm.
fix those flaws. Not to make things perfect, but it's important to make sure that you do what you can, you know, to fix whatever problems that they are. So yeah, no, it was important for me to so Nina wrote the first part, right? Kind of like weeks in,
Mhm.
right? She was trying to get her thoughts together, because you know this is hitting her because we're in the center of it, right? It's
Mhm.
happening right then and there. And emotions are flying and everything. And so when she presented the first part, because the first part was the welcoming part, America,
Mhm.
you're beautiful and all of the great things. And I was like, okay, all right. And I told Scott, I said, I'm not sure if it was my response that triggered the change,
Yeah.
right, in charge, like you said, or if she had that. I need to ask her that. I need to ask her if she always had that in her mind that she would do that.
Mhm.
But I was like, okay, all right. All right. So when do we have the real conversation?
Yeah.
And so that's when she came back weeks later with the other part, the switch, and I was like,
Mhm.
there we go.
You asked for it. Yeah,
There it
she
is.
brought it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gosh, yeah. It was so good.
man. And go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that like I was also surprised when I heard the first reading.
Yes.
Because like in her shoes, I feel like I would have just
Yeah.
like there everyone was so charged for good reason and upset for good reason.
Sure.
And here's Nina just being this like orb of light. And I just remember being like, wow, like how is she doing this right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I agree with you. Like I was also relieved when the switch happened. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
We need both sides. We need to hear both of these things.
But see, that's the genius of Nina, because she looked at the bigger picture.
Mhm.
And it's important for artists, and I'll be more specific, for poets to see the bigger picture, is because, I had a small list. I have a long list of poets, but I have a
Mhm.
short list of poets that could actually do what she did.
Mhm.
I know a lot of great poets, but some poets are one trick,
Mhm.
or all angry, or all black, 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 or um, and that makes my job a little difficult. It's because when I first started this, I was like, man, I know a lot of poets, and I can reach out to a lot of poets, and I can DM a lot of poets from this state, this city. But when I got into it and I started getting calls from organizations like yours, I was like, okay, because they'll ask, do you have a poem? I have plenty of poets. But the real question is, do you have a poem that an awesome poet can match with this project's theme or this event's theme
Mhm.
and topic? And so that's really where it got tricky. And I was like, yeah, I do. And so even that, I may have a poem that matches the theme, but do you have a poet that's professional, that takes their craft serious, that's flexible and will represent your brand, and just lists that I have to check off,
Right. Yeah.
and it dwindles down,
Mhm.
and so we'll show up on time.
Mhm. Yeah, all those factors
All
play
those
into.
factors. And I was like, oh, this is getting real difficult. So but people like Nina and other poets that I work with are just so perfect, and I'm so glad that this worked out the way it did. Like, you all were just so gracious and open, you know um so we're here, so we have the poem done, right?
Yeah.
And so now it's time to actually produce the film.
Mhm.
And where we are now, where are we then? When did she finish it? What month did she finish the film? Did she finish the poem?
Man.
I think it was either October or November.
Right.
But it just finishing the poem now because of the, you know, our final product wasn't the poem.
Right.
It was, you know, she was part of a team building this film, which had, you know, the music, the photography, and her, you know, the visuals and Nina being the subject. And so even just finishing the poem from there, we had to get it recorded. We had to get her recorded. And we had to do it in quarantine. We, you know, we couldn't like meet up with her in the studio.
Oh, well, wait, we forgot about the part where simultaneously as she's writing it, Scott is composing.
Yes.
Yeah, like Nina would give him a chunk and he would write that chunk. And then Nina would give him another chunk and he would write that chunk.
Yeah.
It was really amazing to sort of hear the composition evolve with the poem. It was really cool.
And he was using his voice to be all of the parts.
Yeah.
He like,
and so we can hear what it would sound like.
He kind of goes above and beyond on everything he does, I think. And you know, it sounded so lovely. We were kind of like, well, I mean,
what do you need us for?
Yeah, we don't need to. Yeah, so that was nice. I mean, we had a really nice track to sort of build our recordings off of.
Right.
Yeah, he made it easy for us.
Yeah, and so there were many, many stages. And I also do think that Nina in these meetings, and, you know, she didn't just go off and write the poem and then bring it back to us. This was a process, and we would meet and she would write, and then she would perform them for us, and then she would record. And these are all like, you know, they're the same words, but they're different in the way they contribute to making the final piece. And so I do think, you know, when there was a week and then Scott would bring the music, it added depth to what Nina was saying. And she took that inspiration and fleshed out another part or a new section. And there was a little bit of that back and forth where the words and the music were developing off of each other.
Yeah. So now we have the poem, we have the composition. Now comes in Tyler, right?
Well, not quite yet. I think first we Bridge recorded. Yeah. So we took what Scott had done, and Alan built kind of a MIDI track to sing to, using parts of Scott's voice, but we had to like break apart the track Scott gave us to match with the poem, because, you know, Nina would take more space here or less space here or whatever in her final recording. So then one at a time we recorded our voices, and Alan did all of the editing. So he would sort of layer voices on top of voices until we finally had the quintet.
Yeah,
quintet,
it might.
right?
Hopefully, it sounds like when you listen or watch the movie, it sounds like Bridge was just singing in a room together. But those were recorded individually, separate in home studios, and while quarantining,
in different cities.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So then we had the track done, and it wasn't mastered or really fine-tuned yet, but we had a track to work with. And then with that track, we did a few days of very intense storyboarding. And at this time, we thought a good friend of Alan's from California would be filming it. So Tyler was not in the picture until very late in the process. And fortunately, Gilbert found him based off of a music video he liked of a band in Baltimore. It was like great. Yeah, because Alan's friend unfortunately couldn't come because of a coronavirus situation at his work. But yeah, so we had this soundtrack, which we did a very in-depth storyboard to, and then Alan here loves his spreadsheets, so we did a big spreadsheet of exactly where the team would be every moment of the film day, essentially.
Yeah, it was a different order than a conventional movie, because probably with a movie you start with the concept and the storyboard, right, and the script, and then you film first, right, and then the composer comes in and then composes the soundtrack and records the soundtrack. Here, more like a music video, we started with the sound and Nina's performance, because that was really going to be that is the piece, right? The poem and the performance of the poem, and then everything else supports that. So we built out Nina, and then the music, and then on top of that, we storyboarded the visuals. And that was not. We did really intense and specific. We wrote down specific ideas, but a lot of it was also we need to stay in the flow and see how the film shoot day goes.
Be flexible.
Yeah, be flexible. So our original storyboard is not what the film turned out to be, but we came with ideas, planned out the film, and then brought in Tyler. Yeah.
Wow. So you're familiar with DC?
Yeah.
No? Yes. Okay. But downtown DC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've sort of been local my whole life, and Alan works downtown. So
I work downtown.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was helpful.
So when it comes to the storyboarding, you said it was intense, right? So did you all just simply listen to the words and say, okay, that location would speak highly to the words that she just spoke?
Pretty much. Yeah, we were led by the poem.
Wow.
By the poem first, and then logistic realities. So like we had these ideas, but then we also realized we have one morning to shoot, so we need to tweak this and tweak this and tweak this. But yes, we were very much led by what she was saying in terms of location.
Okay.
I think that the very first visual that came to me was actually inspired by Scott's music, the opening, just that very first chord. I remember the first time hearing that, to me, it just felt like sunrise, and had that feel of morning glow. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, but at some point that came up in a meeting, and then I think it was Jacob that eventually landed on the idea that maybe the course of the poem would pass chronologically through a day. So it would start morning, and it turned out that the poem really fit this form. You know, we move throughout from morning through the day, and then we get to that switch, the however part where we have the conversation, and it hits nighttime at Black Lives Matter Plaza. So we had a tone and kind of visual palette guiding us. Start off in the morning, hit nighttime, and then circle back to first light and dawn at the end of the poem, when Nina's wrapping it up. So that was. And
Scott did such a good job at matching Nina's tone that it was like very easy to integrate the sound world of the piece and the text of the poem in our storyboarding. Like they just sort of, everything worked together so well, that it was easy to be inspired by both things, you know?
Right. I love the way he put it. He said he wanted to make sure that the music simply laid the bed for the poem to lay on. Like, and I think think it was Gilbert's mom in the comments that said, I didn't even know that like there was actually music there until the mid part of the film, because it was just so enhancing to the poem. It was just atmosphere, sounded like.
Which Scott was like, yes.
Right, exactly. Because anybody, I'm gonna say anybody else, but you know, other people might have say, this is my opportunity to show them my musical abilities, you know, but overpower the poem.
Right.
And that was just, everybody was just so selfless in this project on all fronts when it came to art, time, you know, just everything. And I was just so impressed by the organization of everything that morning and that afternoon. Well, it was all morning. We didn't even go into the afternoon. We finished at like 11. Right. We started at like 4:30 and then we ended roughly around 11:30 or so.
Yeah. It felt like a full day.
Man, well, from
essentially was, right?
Yeah, you know. Okay, cool. So now we are actually all right. So in my mind, you know, I probably was thinking small too. I thought we were just going to do everything at Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Oh,
yeah. So when you all came with the spreadsheet and everything, and the van, and saying we're going to go here, we're going to go there, I was like, wow, this is a real movie. This is not just a video, a poem video. This is a straight up film.
Yeah, I mean, every time we had an idea that made it like a little bit bigger, we were like, we kept like testing the waters, like, are we gonna do this? We're gonna do this. Okay. All right. Yeah.
So did you all have a map to say, all right, we're gonna start here, we're gonna walk here, we're gonna walk here?
We used Google Maps.
Yeah. We started off with just like when we had that storyboard session, we just, you know, we mapped out, or not map, we wrote down all our ideas for the lines of the poem, you know.
And the location.
We wanted to be at the monument. Yeah, we had a list of locations. Then after we had all those ideas, we looked at the map and said, okay, how are we going to do this?
This is not gonna work.
We can't just film it like in the order of the poem because it jumps around place.
Right.
So yeah, then we eventually pulled up a map and said, okay, this makes sense. And then Gilbert was our location scout. He stepped up and he got up early one morning and walked the route and the path just to make sure everything was.
He walked the entire route?
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
At like 5:30 in the morning. Yeah.
But
see, that's what I'm talking about. This is awesome. I didn't know that until just now.
Yeah.
That was Tyler's idea though, the cinematographer. And so having Tyler helped a lot because he has done this before.
Right.
So he had advice along the way, and he said, make sure that somebody, me or somebody, walks the path, walks the route, checks for bathrooms, make sure the lighting is the way we want it. So yeah, having his experience definitely helped.
That I'm speechless.
Yeah, Tyler really brought a lot to the table, and was so great through the whole process. I mean, he's so helpful. There were times like in editing when we had the film done, but we're just finessing. He just like gave us advice for free, and just like I think he really believed in the project, and so he was willing to give it more time and energy, and he did like brilliant filming on the day of, but was also just very helpful after that as well.
How much did he know going in? Did he listen to the poem, the music and everything before going in, or did you all just give him the places and what did he know?
In our first meeting with him, we did play him. I think at this point, I don't think we'd finished recording the whole thing yet, but we had a portion just to give him a sense of the tone, and we gave him the storyboard just to check with him, because we had these grand ideas and we wanted to make sure that it was doable from someone that has done things like this before. And he okayed it, and so he had heard the poem and some of the music, and then had the storyboard as a guide. But he was, he director of photography, so our storyboard was just kind of, let's be at this location, and then so we would get there. But Tyler really captured and framed the visual and helped a lot with piecing together all those moments that we were trying to hit.
Wow. Okay, got you. All right, and for me, I thought that he was going to be the videographer and the editor, because usually that's how it is. And so how much belief in yourselves did you all have to say, hey, we can edit this ourselves?
Well, I'll brag for Alan here for a second. He, during the pandemic, has become essentially a professional video and audio engineer. He's built microphones. He's done tons of videos for different choirs around town, both the video and editing. So I think the three of us, Gilbert, Jacob, and myself, had a lot of faith in him to do this. We also just didn't have the budget to ask Tyler to do that on top of the filming. So yeah, I mean, Alan really, anything he didn't know how to do, he watched a YouTube video and he just taught himself, and we were there for ideas, help, but without him, it would not have been what it was at all. He did all of the terrifying tech work.
I was, I have to say, I was pretty confident. I was most scared of the task of completing the editing within, I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But I was pretty confident because I had spent so much of the COVID time. Most of what I do is building virtual choirs. And so if you haven't seen one of these, it's just like the Brady Bunch effect, where each, I'm getting all these video files of individual singers, and then I have to mix the audio. So I'm used to working with 50, 60 videos and piecing them together. So in some ways, this was a little easier. No, I won't say easier, but it was definitely a different style of editing.
You had one video at a time.
Yeah,
right. You just got clips and clips.
Yeah.
But Tyler gave you what? Just all of the footage?
Yeah.
Yeah. So much.
Yeah, I think it was 70 video
footage,
files. Yeah.
And you had to watch all of that. Walk me through it. You had to watch it and then say, this is a good part.
Well, so for any aspiring video editor, organization is key. So I didn't watch every second of every video.
Okay.
I could skim through it. So the first thing I did was just categorize the videos, because just labeling, and I did it by look and feel. So there was a nighttime folder, there was a folder for dawn and sunrise, because we knew that the tone of the visual was our goal was to match the tone of the poetry, and so that's how we got all organized. And then from there, it was just trying things out. Really, it was finding the moments. Just like in any performance, it comes through in video, where there are just special moments that stand out and you have to use. So sorting through the videos, it was organizing and then picking out the highlights and then finding the best place for them. It was really that was really fun work, actually, because we had such great material, from the poem to the performance to the music and the visuals. So it was just all about letting them complement one another.
Yeah.
And was it fun work in hindsight, or was it fun work?
In hindsight.
Yeah, I mean, it depended on the day. There
Yeah.
were days where there was some tension in the group about like we had so many different options for each scene. So Alan would basically, he had the track of Bridge, he had the track of Nina, and then he had we decided on a bunch of different options for each scene. Not each scene, but a lot of the different scenes had different options. And then we would go through each one and see what we liked the best. And there were some disagreements that we had to work through, of course. But I think overall, we really had a lot of fun putting it together. It was just like, it was hard work, but so rewarding that, we just, like, there was never a point where it was like, right. It was always an exciting thing to be doing.
The fun part is being inspired by an idea or like combining things that just work really well together. The not so fun part is when you do that and, I don't know, spend an hour or two on it, and then show it to other people, and they're like, "That doesn't really work," which was a big part of the process. But I think that's how we got to the end product. I think it was Scott that said, that's the beauty of collaboration, is no single one of us could have imagined this on their own, right? Mm-hmm. It was really the combination of all these ideas and letting them coexist and mix in together. That's how we got to this really beautiful thing.
You gave me an idea that I want to do a virtual choir. I want to do a virtual choir with a poet.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I think that would be like, and because what we did for America's Got Talent, when Brandon Leak was going through it and he won, for the finale, they called us days actually. They called us days before the finale, and they wanted us to create the treatment for his intro to his performance. And, and I think a couple of weeks before, I thought of an idea to really support Brandon in his journey while he's on the show. I did a Calling All Poets, and I asked all the poets from around the world to send in, a congratulatory video saying, "Man, thank you, man, you're doing awesome. You inspired me, blah, blah, blah." And then I put all of that together and surprised them with that video. Right, to really push him forward. And so AGT called after that and said, "Hey, can you do that again, but have the poets actually write a short poem, and we'll put those poems together to make one poem." And so I think that would be pretty awesome to even mesh with a virtual choir, like calling all singers and even calling all poets. Man, so let's talk afterwards, because where are we now? So how do you know it's finished?
Ooh. Well, I guess after we finished the video or did most of our editing, then we did sound, like final balancing, final mastering.
A big part of the editing, actually probably the most time spent editing was on the footage that Tyler did not shoot. Because after that great day of shooting, we had some holes in the full video,
which we knew we would. We had planned to use B-roll.
And so we spent a lot of time looking through historic B-roll videos, and so those clips of MLK and the March for Jobs and modern day protests, all of those clips. Many hours were spent looking for the right shot that would match the moment, especially because the footage that Tyler shot, that was at such a high level, and so we wanted to maintain across the.
Did you have to get stock videos and pay for those, or you got free royalty?
No, we paid. It was actually cheaper for us to pay per video in this circumstance. Yeah. So that was I had sort of, that was one of my jobs early on, was to like just find a bunch of historical B-roll stuff. And we ended up using quite a bit of that, but some of it just in the final product didn't work. So we had to go back to the drawing board and find new videos, even up to like the 11th hour. I feel like we were still looking for new B-roll stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that took a lot of time. Really, honestly, Tyler's shooting made his parts really quite easy. Like, cause he just lined things up so beautifully. I think with what he had read in the poem. So that was much easier than like filling in the other bits. Yeah.
Wow.
So how do we know it's done?
Yeah, that's a hard question.
Yeah.
I think for me it was when nothing was bothering me anymore. like we would have watch throughs and I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. This one thing is still driving me crazy. And it was, so when we got to the point where none of the four of us was saying that any longer, I feel like that was kind of when we were like, okay.
Alan, were you like, all right, what is it now? What is it?
Yes, that was.
There were a couple times he was like,
by the end of it,
I think this is the one. I think this is it.
But I'm glad they kept coming back to me, because I was ready to wrap it up, but it would not have been as good as it is now if we didn't keep revising.
We had a couple moments where we said we are so close, and at this point, let's just fix these couple things. So it was a labor of love for sure.
And a lot of those very, very final adjustments were just timing and feel. Yeah. Like at the climax, I think probably the last, or one of the very last things we did was getting the timing right after the climax of the piece. And then where we cut to the March for Jobs, MLK, and its first light, we're cutting to footage of us, and then the modern BLM protests in LA, and also cutting to the Confederate statue coming down. So that whole sequence, we wanted to get the timing and the feel just right. And so it was down to moving things by a couple frames and a couple beats here and there. But that level of detail really made the film, I think.
Wow. It is an amazing film. I did a search on film festivals and I found about 13. You know, when you do a search for like the best software for something, there are websites or blogs that say, here are the best 12, I found the top, I don't know, film festivals to apply to.
Great.
I really want us, and I'll email it to the entire team so each of us can look at the different, criteria and stuff like that. But this warrants submissions. Like really, this really does. People, when win film festivals, first, second, third for lesser topics, you know, and lesser quality. So I think even if we don't win, it draws more eyes to the conversation. You know, so that's again also with Nina creating a curriculum. I want to reach out to universities and organizations that speak to this theme, and again continue the conversation, because again, like we said, this project wasn't just to create a project and say, hey, we're finished, we're happy, you know. And be proud of ourselves, even though we should be proud of ourselves. But it really is like, that's the pregame. Creating the film was the pregame. The game is the actual conversation that needs to be had. So we're not into the game until we start the conversation.
Yeah.
You know, so I want to create those paths, and that's why I wanted to make sure I brought everybody onto the podcast so the conversation continues. You know, even though we're talking about the actual project, we're also referencing the conversation that needs to be had. And so who knows, that, you know, the folks that will be watching this and be like, oh, so those are the people that actually produce that film that I just watched on Facebook or on YouTube. And so I really appreciate you all's time. It's Saturday. It's 1:15, you know, it's nice outside, you know, so I appreciate you all carving out time to spend with me on the Poet Life podcast. I really appreciate you, you know, for doing that for me and continuing the conversation, but also at the outset, calling us and saying, hey, this is what we've been thinking about, and what are your thoughts? And so we really appreciate it. What are your thoughts to close out?
We appreciate you. We couldn't have gotten here.
This wouldn't be a thing without you. So
no. I just hope, I think we all hope people take in the film, watch it, not just to watch it and for the views, but because there's a really powerful message that we all thought long and hard about, and it takes that kind of that energy, and it is really inspiring for the fight that needs to continue. We're not going to undo centuries of systemic racism with a 7-minute video, but we can inspire conversations and inspire action, like concrete actions. And hopefully this is what that does. It's a launching point for the steps that need to be taken little by little.
For sure. Crossley, you have anything?
I mean, I don't know how to follow that. That was pretty much everything I wanted to say. But yeah, I just want to reiterate, you know, Alan's thanks to you and the Poet Life for pushing us to make the most of this opportunity, I think, and for finding us, Nina, of course, and now for helping us to get this out there.
Sure.
That's really great, and I'm excited. I'm excited for the future of this project, because I agree, it's not just like a film that's going to be stagnant. I want this to be part of something. So yeah, just a huge thank you, and we're really excited as a team to see where this can go.
Indeed. Look, everybody watching, listening, or reading the blog, it's the Poet Life podcast. If anything about the Poet Life that you want to know more about, go to thepoetlife.com. We have everything that you need to know there. But also go watch the film, America, You're Beautiful, aybfilm.com. It's right there on the screen for those watching. If you're listening, again, it's aybfilm.com. Thank you all for listening, watching, and reading. It's the Poet Life podcast. Everybody have a good weekend and the rest of the week.
Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find a way.